I have a gavel.
Duh.
Use my knuckles.
This is the fun part. Hello.
All right, if everybody take their seats, we have a very full agenda this morning, so we'll get started. We're at 7 at the moment, I think.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you so
Oh, we're at 8. We're at 8. We just hit 8. Morning.
Oh, yay, 8.
Good morning. I call the fourth meeting of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Economic Development and Tourism to order. At this time, we'll have Amy call the roll, please.
Senator Smith. Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Representative Gooch.
Here.
Representative King.
Present.
Representative Lehman.
Here.
Representative McPherson.
Here.
Representative Wesley.
Here.
Representative Witten. Representative Fugit.
Here.
Chair Nunn.
Here. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
Motion.
Got a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. We have a very, very full agenda today, so we're going to ask everybody to be quick, but don't hurry. Say what you need to say, nothing more, nothing less. We're going to do questions after each presentation. That way everything's fresh in our minds. I asked the presenters to try to stay about 10 minutes, leave time for questions after your presentation. And then we're going to flip the agenda just a little bit because I understand Mr. Quick has another meeting to get to, so we're going to try to accommodate that. Before we get started, I do ask my colleagues to think about these projects through two lenses. Number one, the tourism lens, which I think that's how most people look at them, but also workforce attraction and retention. Quality of life is important when you're looking at attracting and retaining workforce, and I think all these could be important projects when it comes to quality of life. So I ask my colleagues to look at those projects from both those lenses. So at this time, we'll have Mary Quinn Raymer, Eric Frankel, Colby Ernst, and the whole conglomerate of folks with that group of projects, however you had planned to present those. Okay, so the green button on your microphone to indicate that it's on. Please state your name and who you're representing, please.
Good morning. I'm Erin Arnold Davis. I'm the Director of Destination Stewardship and Community Engagement at Visit Lex. I'm here for Mary Quinn Raymer. But thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm pleased to be with you all today to introduce 3 fantastic projects that are currently in development in Lexington. And while each of these projects is located inside of Fayette County, I believe, and I think that you will too, that the impact is far more reaching than just our county lines. As you know, Lexington is an important economic generator for the region, and each of these projects will have a great impact on our entire service area, inclusive of central, southern, and eastern Kentucky. You'll see that each of these projects is about leveraging quality of life and investments in an effort to drive positive economic impact to the region. These projects allow our region to remain competitive in business and talent attraction. These projects greatly enhance the quality of life for our residents, and these projects fully support the growth of tourism to our area, which is why Visit Lex in particular is excited to show our support. I'm excited for you to hear more, and it's my pleasure to introduce Next Stage Development and ATG Entertainment for our first presentation.
Well, thank you and good morning, and Senator Chairman Nunn and members of the committee. We want to thank you very much for taking time this morning to hear about our project. Very much appreciate the opportunity to talk about this downtown Lexington Arts Center this project we've developed. I'm Heatley Butler. I am the chairman of Next Stage Development Corp., which is a nonprofit, a Kentucky nonprofit that was set up to move this project forward and hopefully make it a reality.
Good morning, Chair Nunn and members of the committee. My name is Josh Fuhrer. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for ATG Entertainment.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. I'm Harding Dowell. I'm the President of Next Stage Development Corporation.
So we thought we'd just start off with a quick overview. kind of the who, what, where of our project. As you can see here up on the screens, our goal is to build a world-class arts center in downtown Lexington. This would include a 2,500-seat performing arts center as well as a 20,000 square foot visual arts gallery. We anticipate and are targeting to host up to 180 events a year at the Performing Arts Center, and that would include Broadway, musicals, comedy, and theatrical productions. The Visual Arts Gallery itself will host traveling arts exhibitions, promote local artists, and serve as a unique event space for the city. We hope and expect that the Art Center will attract over 300,000 visitors annually to Lexington, and we hope to generate well over $4 million of revenue from the arts venue. We hope to open the center in 2029. I just want to focus on the blue box, the total cost of the project, which is we've estimated to be approximately $120 million. We're asking the state for $30 million of that amount. Next Stage Development Corp., the nonprofit, will raise an additional $60 million, mostly from philanthropic resources, but also will look at tax credit incentive programs and other public funding sources. And then ATG Entertainment has some skin in the game. I don't know if just want to speak to that for a moment.
Yeah, ATG Entertainment is looking to invest $30 million, matching the state. Hopefully, if that request is granted. We are the only owner-operator of theatrical venues in the world that puts skin in the game at that level. And we're very proud of that track record. We do that in all of our projects, and we would anticipate doing the same here.
And just going back to, so that's a quick summary and overview of the project, and that's the who, what, where, and we just want to spend a moment on the why. We first started looking at this concept well over 2 years ago, and there's other members here in the group here in the audience who have been a big part of this process. We first started looking at it as part of the Fund for Greater Lexington, which is a group in Lexington that focuses on transformative ideas and incubating those ideas for the city and the region. And the idea for the Art Center originally came about because of strong community demand for better arts infrastructure in the city, as well as access to shows and programming that typically would skip over Lexington. You could go see the shows in Chicago, Nashville, sometimes Louisville, Cincinnati, but they would never come through Lexington. So there's a strong demand for the shows, for the programming, and for better arts infrastructure. So our group decided to take a look at that need and that demand, and we funded and managed an extensive feasibility study led by a consulting firm, a leading consulting firm in the sector, Sound Diplomacy. And we wrapped up that feasibility study about 7 or 8 months ago. Not only did the feasibility study confirm the need for a major arts center, but it also revealed that these types of art centers are actually economic drivers for many small and mid-sized cities in the U.S. I'm going to let Josh spend a little more time about the market kind of dynamics, the supply demand, and really talking about how this could really solve the kind of market issues for Lexington with arts. But I wanted to take a moment and just talk a little more about that economic development piece. These major performing arts centers have played key roles in the economic success stories in cities like Durham, Greenville, Greensboro, Knoxville, Huntsville, and many others. And candidly, you know, from my perspective, some of these cities that I just mentioned weren't in our competitive set 20 years ago. Now they've caught up to us. Some of them have passed us in terms of economic growth, talent attraction and retention, tourism dollars, et cetera. And you know, to me, these are the cities that we're going to be competing with for doctors and nurses, students, for those tourism dollars. And when you look at this project and the importance it is to making Lexington's downtown vibrant, attractive, that these projects are not a nice to have for a downtown. They're becoming a requirement for us to be able to compete against these other cities and in the region. So just quickly wrapping up, we believe the Art Center project will expand the reach and the quality of arts for sure, but at the same time, it's very much a critical economic driver for Lexington, for the region, and for the state. I'm going to pass it over to Josh because it's one thing to build a venue. It's a whole other thing to operate a venue profitably. And as part of our feasibility study, we spent a lot of time interviewing theater operators around the world. It also happened to be at the same time we were doing that, one of the leading global operators of theaters ATG Entertainment was also looking at Lexington on its own. And so we've worked together and alongside of each other to push this project forward. So it's my pleasure to introduce Josh.
Thank you. Thank you, Healy. The last 5 or 6 years, ATG Entertainment has been looking across the United States at over 100 markets in terms of looking to expand our footprint. We currently have 71 venues across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe, 7 on Broadway in New York City, and 11,000 employees worldwide. So we are a player we are the largest player in the Broadway theatrical venue space. We create world-class content. Last year, we won 14 Tony Awards for productions in our venues in New York, and we have a very vertically integrated business where we do all of our own operations, programming, food and beverage, ticketing, marketing, etc. We have been looking to expand our portfolio of venues across the U.S. We currently have venues in Boston, New Orleans, San Antonio, Houston, San Francisco, and a number of markets across the country. As we took a look at the landscape, looking at over 100 markets across the country, it became clear that Lexington is a bit of a unique, I would even go so far as to call it a unicorn market, in that it has all of the right ingredients for what we would look for in terms of a new market to enter. And I've got a slide or two that'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe we can advance that. One of the things we look for is a highly educated population, a certain critical mass of population. We look at income and education demographics, and we look at what the competitive set of venues across the market is. And there are other cities across the country that have an educated population that loves to go to the theater and see shows. But what we don't see really anywhere else, and why Lexington has become our number one target for a new market to enter across the country, is a gap in the market in terms of venue size. So in Lexington, you have a number of venues on the, call it 1,000 and below seating capacity, the Opera House being the most notable. And then there's really nothing until you get to Rupp Arena at 20,000 seats. And recognizing that Rupp can scale down to 4,000 or 5,000 seats for smaller shows is great, but it's not really well configured for Broadway theatrical. So we have identified a real gap in the market where we would propose to put in a 2,500 seat venue in Lexington that could support Broadway theatrical, bringing in the Hamiltons, the Lion Kings, the Wickeds, as well as a number of music, comedy, and events shows to the tune of 120 to 150 shows a year, while also leaving room for community events as well. In all of the markets that we go into, we have a significant presence of community groups who use our venues and are really critical partners in terms of being able to round out the programming schedule for the year, as well as opening up the venue to local community arts groups to be able to use the venue as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm going to hand it back to Healy in a moment, but one thing I want to be sure to touch on is that we also do a lot of partnerships with education, with school groups. Every year, in every market that we're in, we give away hundreds, even in some case thousands of tickets to see shows. We do backstage tours. We do meet and greet and talk backs with artists, really trying to grow the next generation of audience members and filling a needed gap in the arts education space in a lot of places where arts education funding has been cut. We feel like there's an opportunity for us to kind of be a good partner and fill in that gap. And we have a whole program dedicated to that within our company. I could talk more about that all day, but in the interest of time, I'll hand it back to Healy.
Thanks, Josh. I think the key thing for us is we are lucky that there are a lot of cities that have come before us on this, and it's a well-worn path now. And we've seen the economic development component of this highlighted in several of the cities that I mentioned. And I just want to confirm that we also, in our feasibility study, which was done in parallel to Josh looking at this really from a for-profit perspective, confirmed everything about the demand that's there already in the city, and a lot of that's the same demographics and components. So a very strong kind of confirmation of the demand in the market. But getting back to the examples, I think based on what we've learned, we expect that the Arts Center will be a significant boost to talent attraction and retention, to tourism dollars, and to additionally new downtown development projects in Lexington. Lexington has 38% of Lexington is surface parking lots, so we have some room to grow for new development and new construction around this type of a center. And also, I'll leave it to Bob Quick and Visit Lex, but I think they would agree about tourism and around the chamber that this is now a requirement, not a nice to have in terms of their efforts. Just as an example, I think we find it's really been our best and kind of apples to apples example for us is the Durham Performing Arts Center, 2,700 seat performing arts center that was built in 2008. It was a effort by Duke University and Durham, North Carolina, the city, to come together to revitalize downtown. Durham had a forgotten, very vacant and kind of troubled downtown, and so this was the effort to really revitalize it and move it in a different direction. Duke put in 20% of the $49 million cost, and the city put in a significant amount. They sold some of it through naming rights to raise the $49 million, and the theater opened up in 2008. The theater now generates $2 million. Excuse me. The theater now generates over $2 million in profit annually for the city, and it's created over $1 billion of economic activity in the last 10 years. And for the most recent numbers that we saw, it attracts approximately 500,000 visitors annually to Durham. So Durham, going from basically a forgotten downtown that nobody really went to, it is now one of the fastest growing cities, not just in the Southeast, but in the U.S. That's a pretty good return on investment for Duke, putting in about $7 or $8 million into this project. And so we believe that if you look at this, it gives you the sense and the confidence that Lexington is in a similar position. And if you move to the next slide, but we do think we're in a very good position for all the reasons Josh mentioned to also make this a successful economic impact story. As part of our feasibility study, we hired a third-party firm to do an economic impact forecast. From a construction perspective, it's a $120 million project. We expect the economic impact to be just over $200 million, creating over 1,200 jobs through the construction. From an ongoing perspective, we expect the kind of multiplier effect of having an operation, a significant venue downtown, should create a economic output of around 28 million and support around 220 jobs. So, again, one of the reasons that really the Fund for Greater Lexington and the Next Stage Development Corp., the reason we really undertook this as a nonprofit, and we started, as I mentioned, 2 years ago, and it was really to look at the arts community. And to be able to expand access, improve infrastructure. And what we love about this project is we think we put together a project that not only allows us to sustainably, economically move forward, but also reinvest into the community and expand access. And I just want to draw your attention to a few of these. Our impact targets as Next Stage Development Corp. We're hoping to have, as we mentioned, around 300 annual visitors. But as Josh mentioned, there are programs that we work with ATG with and the operator to subsidize tickets. So 10 to 15% of the tickets would be subsidized. We'd have weekly free gallery access for the visual arts space. And the way we're structuring this relationship with ATG is to essentially have some of the revenue come back to the nonprofit. So we're targeting around $450,000 of net revenue to come back into the nonprofit to be reinvested back in the community, and that's for community and artist support through grants and different programming to support the local arts community. Put it towards education to be able to bring students and expand it to the region to bring people to Lexington to be able to access this program and the shows and the arts. So from a Visit Lex perspective, we're anticipating around $6 to $8 million of annual visitor spending, and as I mentioned before, creating around 225 jobs. So this is our project for the Downtown Performing Arts Center. We very much believe this is a win-win, and while we set off to create a project that would expand the reach of the arts, we also have found that this is going to be a significant economic driver for Lexington. So thank you.
Thank you. Does any questions at this time? Okay. Chair Fugit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So go over the total cost is $120 million. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And where does all that funding come from? The $30 million from the state is your ask, and where else?
And $30 million from the operator, and then the $60 million we would be raising from philanthropic resources, individuals, corporate foundations, and hopefully get additional public financing and use tax incentive programs. And that's a model that we've seen in other cities like Greensboro, where you tend to see a nonprofit raise money both through state, city, and then private foundations.
But just to be clear, this is a one-time ask. We have an operating model that is self-sustaining. We're not coming back here next year or the year after asking for more.
I understand that. Will you be asking the city of Lexington, since they'll be the main beneficiary, will they be helping the funding?
So we are in constant contact with the mayor's office and city council on this project, and yes, seeking to get support from the city of Lexington.
Okay, that's all. Thank
you. Senator Wheeler.
Thank you, and this is an interesting project, and I'm a big fan of the arts. I guess one question I have is, honestly, I'm a big fan of the Make America Beautiful Again movement, and specifically with architecture and things like that. And I guess what I'm wondering is, obviously this is an interesting venue, to put it mildly, but I think a lot of times that we've seen that when you take a more classical viewpoint on things, I can think of maybe the Schermerhorn Center in Nashville, which is a relatively new construction that is a very elegant, classically proportioned building, and a performing arts center for the symphony in Nashville and some other things. Who came up with this design? Because oftentimes I've even found that you can build a much more attractive building for the public at a lower cost when you maybe rely less on some of these architects' inspirations that they get from the university, rather than letting them design for design's sake.
Can I start and then you fill in? Do you mind? Is that okay?
We have an architect here at the end.
And
not the architect, an architect, and I agree with everything you said.
So I totally agree with everything you just said. Just to be clear, these are not designs. We have not started the design process. We have not hired an architect, and these are not. These are really just inspirational images of what a venue.
Some would find them depressing.
Could look
including
like.
the person standing up
Change
here
the picture.
asking you the question.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
What kind of design would you like?
Yeah.
No, I think just to be clear, the design process, once it kicks off, is going to be informed by community stakeholder input. We anticipate a robust process where the community will have a role and a voice in informing what the design of the building could look like. That being said, we haven't started that process yet, and I will defer to my architect colleague here to speak more eloquently on the design intentions and goals and things that we might want to pursue. But we're very excited about engaging on that part of the process. We're just not there yet. Go ahead.
Thanks for your question, Senator Wheeler. I appreciate it, and your thoughts on the Make America Beautiful Again effort. What I'll say is a couple of things. One, to echo what Josh said, which is that we have not even yet begun conceptual design. And I will say that the siting this building in downtown Lexington, which has a great deal of historic building stock and a particular scale and style, is that a building that is exceptionally modern or adventurous would be not at home in Lexington, and also more expensive. I think that at $120 million, this is not a luxury project. That's a robust budget for a project of this scale, but not one that's going to have. We want it to feel at home in Lexington. I think that's the most important thing.
I can think particularly, if you'll give me a little bit of indulgence, Mr. Chair. For example, the Rupp Arena. Frankly, I can remember when it was remodeled the first time when I was in college around 1996, and I found it much more attractive than the spaceship-looking thing that it ended up within the last 4 or 5 years at an additional cost of several tens of millions of dollars. I've been to many events there, and the space seemed perfectly okay. But sometimes, like I said, I think we let some of these architects get out of control. I've even talked to some of my superintendents that want new schools. I said, look at Henry Clay High School or Independence Hall. If you build a school like that, it'll look just as good 100 years from now, and you're not telling me it's outdated in 20 years if I'm still around wanting another school. But I digress. Thank you.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I just I think one important thing I do want to know, because it's an important, I think, about the architecture, is that we are, the focus is on building a theater that can be quite flexible. so that what Durham, for example, at 2,700 seats, it's flexible, so you can bring in music, you can bring in comedy, you can bring in theatrical, symphony, and that's where Lexington, Nashville has multiple venues. We really don't even have a single venue like this, so we want to design it to bring in all types of shows, and Durham is, I think, lit up 200 nights a year. So that's the goal, is to create as much flexibility when we design it, and be functional in that way.
Thank you. Representative Winton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your presentation. I'm a legislator out of Louisville, and so one of my questions is, do you feel that this is truly in the gap and that the rising tide will lift all ships, or is there some competitive nature that Louisville will somehow lose some of these events to the new Lexington?
Well, maybe Josh and I can answer, because from the feasibility study, we looked at that question at the outset. What's interesting about Lexington is that when you look at Eastern Kentucky and you really look at Lexington East and Lexington Southeast, there are a lot of what I'd call kind of the target audience members and people that would use this venue that will not travel to Louisville. They will not make that extra hour drive. They're not going to drive an extra hour to Cincinnati. So we actually felt that there was a pretty big gap in the geographic market, so to speak, that Lexington, by having this type of a venue, you're actually opening up access in a market that right now is currently not being served by Louisville. It's not being served by Cincinnati. So we asked that same question: is would we end up having an oversupply? But we found that actually no, that the demand will be coming from the south and from the east. That is currently not going to those other markets. But I know you looked at it from a market perspective, from you guys looking at it as well.
We did, and I would echo what Headley said. We believe that our audience will come from between 60 and 90 minutes drive, and primarily from the south and eastern portions of the state. I don't think we're going to draw a lot of audience from Cincinnati or Louisville, simply because those communities already have assets like this that serve those communities. So I can't imagine that somebody would go from Louisville to Lexington to see a show that's probably going to be in Louisville the next week anyway, right? So I think they're very complementary.
And maybe make that point too, I think, which is we've talked about, which is that these shows are they actually are very, that they look at where they can go right after they do the Louisville show. It makes a lot more economic sense for them to go to Lexington, so that there's gaps in their schedules that Lexington will be able to fill now that they have a venue that technologically supports what they do. And has the right size. So you could see music acts, comedy acts coming through that would have been in Louisville or Cincinnati the night before.
Yeah, we have a number of venues throughout the Southeast, and we think about programming in terms of routing. So routing shows from one venue to the next, and this would actually fill kind of a hole in the middle of our donut, so that routing from, we're working on a venue in Asheville, North Carolina. You could imagine a show going from Asheville to Lexington to Springfield, Missouri, where we have a venue, to Little Rock, Arkansas, where we have a venue, down into New Orleans, where we have a venue, to Houston. Like, you can just imagine the routing. It gets much more efficient when we have another venue to add to the map.
All right. Senator Smith with the last question on this topic.
Yeah, I actually appreciate the presentation, and though I'm from the eastern part of the state, the coalfields, it may be curious to some of why we take an interest in this, but I will tell you, I'm a Kentuckian first, and I like the idea when I travel for people to come into my state and to get a hotel room and be able to look out that window and see all the wonderful things that other states have to offer. So we all have to contribute, whether that's going to be directly in our district or not. So I would encourage you. I know that in Sydney and other places there's remarkable architecture that is synonymous with that region, and I think we're no different. We're entitled to having something beautiful like that could be a landmark destination to our state as well. Obviously not saying to throw the budget out the window with it, but I do challenge you, and I think for the purpose of for the state and the history, that we've got a unique chance here of putting something remarkable out there that becomes a destination itself. The place in Vegas, and I can't remember the name of it, Mr. Chairman, but it's the Dome, I guess. I understand.
I stay away from Vegas. I don't know.
Yeah, I've only seen it for concert. I don't blame you for that, but I think all of us have probably seen the venue there, and it may be called the Dome, but I understand that thing's booked out already, that you can't get in. So it's a totally different format. So I'm not necessarily sure that it would compete with Louisville, because I think it's going to be probably a different setup maybe altogether, but I think there's plenty of room for this type of venue in our state. I applaud what you're trying to do and encourage you to really look outside the box and come up with something that may be unique for our state as a whole. But we should all celebrate each region's successes, and I think this will be one we can all celebrate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Please state your names and who you're representing, and the green button on the microphone indicates that it's on.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. My name is Colby Ernest. I'm Executive Director at the Lexington Children's Museum.
Is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Olivia Davis. I'm the chair of the board at the Lexington Children's Museum.
Thank you again for your time this morning, Chairman Nunn and senators and representatives. We are excited today to present to you our vision for the future of the Lexington Children's Museum. For those of you who do not know, the Children's Museum has been located in downtown Lexington since 1990. Since that time, we have served millions of children and families through our doors, giving them a truly learning through play experience. If you have not visited the museum, just to give you an idea of what we're offering currently, we have roughly 12,000 square feet of interactive exhibits that children, again, are using to learn through their play and engaging with the adults in their lives to do so. In addition to the museum experience that we currently offer, we are also out in the state providing education programming to our educators that rely on us to support them to implement curriculum in their classrooms and to provide programming and or the materials that they need to support the curriculum in their classrooms. In addition to that, we have been heavily focused on accessibility at the museum over the last several years to allow every child and family to be able to access our programming. To provide a little bit more insight on the reach that the Lexington Children's Museum has, while we have the name Lexington, it is in name only. As you can see, the impact that the museum has across the state is quite significant, specifically when we speak to the education programming that the museum is offering. So as I said before, in addition to the field trips that the museum offers for schools throughout the state, we also are offering programming that takes our resources outside of the four walls of the museum. And this visual shares a little bit of that impact that we are currently seeing in our space right now. As you can see, about a fourth of the students that are impacted through those programs are coming from Fayette County. 75% are coming from outside Fayette County, and a significant amount are coming from southern and southeastern and eastern Kentucky as well. To echo the Performing Arts Center, the access to this type of resource for a lot of our families, a lot of our educators, specifically in southern and eastern Kentucky, is limited to access at the Lexington Children's Museum. Last year alone, we had to turn away 50 field trips to our museum because we could not meet the demand in terms of the capacity that we can hold in our current space to support all the educators throughout our state. A little update on the numbers. In our current space, we are seeing over 50,000 visitors annually through our doors. Again, the majority of those visitors are coming from outside Fayette County. We are offering many opportunities in the way of accessibility programming. I highlight a few in front of you today. One of those is our access to sensory hours for children with sensory sensitivities to come and visit our museum outside normal operating hours with their families at no cost. For any of you who might know a child with sensory sensitivities, a children's museum can be definitely an overstimulating environment for them. And again, back to our mission of making sure that we are accessible for all children and families. We have opened up this opportunity over the past several years to allow those children to come and use our space so that they too can learn through play with their families as well. In addition to that, we are now a Museums for All museum, which is a national initiative that allows any family that receives government assistance to access our museum at a significantly reduced price. As opposed to our $10 general admission rate, these families can get in at $3 per person. We will exceed 5,000 Museums for All patrons this coming fiscal year. In addition to that, all of our field trips that come through our doors receive an automatic discount for any Title I schools. Roughly 80% or so of those field trips that are coming to us for currently are a Title I school, and they are receiving discounts for those field trips, $8 per student for those field trips. On average, we're raising over $100,000 to make sure that we are supporting our community so that they can access, again, our museum and our programming. With that said, for those of you that may have visited the museum, understand the limitations that we currently have in our space. As I said before, we opened in 1990. It was a great space for the Children's Museum in 1990. Thankfully, because of the demand that we are seeing over the past several years, particularly, this space really no longer allows us to be what we believe we can be, which is a true world-class children's museum that is drawing in visitors from across the region. In addition to the space constraints, we are currently, our exhibit lies within about 12,000 square feet. We have a lot of accessibility limitations in our space as well. Parking is certainly one of those. We talked about our opportunities to access our museum. If a family is only able to visit us on a Saturday in January and there is a basketball game going on, and now they are paying $25 to park, we are now no longer accessible to that family. In addition to that, when we talk about sustainability and operations, the fact that we do not currently have any outdoor space, not only to meet our mission, but also to allow children to get out their gross motor play as well. But really important for operations when we have nice fall days like we have today, for the Children's Museum to be a space for families to visit. Particularly interested in Senator Wheeler's feelings about
quickly over this slide.
The Children's Museum began this process in earnest over 4 years ago, and we realized quickly that there was a need for a new Children's Museum in Lexington to support, again, the demand that we were seeing. And we took that opportunity to go big, and we took that opportunity to provide what we believe Kentucky deserves, which is a world-class children's museum. We started this process with a strategic plan in 2022, and we followed that up with a master plan and assessment in 2023, working with a local architecture firm, EOP Champlin, and also partnering with a national firm out of New York City, Skolnick Architecture and Design. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Skolnick Architecture and Design, they were the lead architects on the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, and also the lead architects on the Children's Museum in Chattanooga and Miami. So, the rendering that you see in front of you is the culmination of an 8-month master plan and assessment process that we went through, again, engaging hundreds of community stakeholders to see what they felt like they wanted out of their children's museum and what they wanted it to represent. The architecture itself is influenced by many, there are many influences to the architecture. Obviously, the accessible rooftop gives us our dedicated outdoor space, which is so critical to our operations. It also is meant to mimic the rolling bluegrass hills, as well as the karst landscape throughout the space, the log cabin presented through the lower tier, and then on another rendering that you have in your package, you can see that our main admission area is meant to mimic the front porch of our museum, welcoming in all families and educators, not just across the state, but visiting from across the region as well. The location of this museum has also been a process that we have been working on over the past year and a half as well. When we started this process, we had a long list of needs that we felt were necessary to become a world-class children's museum in the city of Lexington. One of those is that we felt it was important to maintain a downtown presence for visibility and accessibility purposes. But we also knew that we needed to roughly double our square foot, have dedicated parking, have the opportunity for outdoor play as well, and the opportunity to be a place that really represented the entire state of Kentucky. We are fortunate now that we are at the finish line on this process. Both boards of both the Lexington Children's Museum and the board that owns this property have both approved a 100-year land lease agreement for this property, and we are at the finish line to get that lease signed as well. As you can see, if you're not familiar with Lexington, We have highlighted a few of the other areas around the space, obviously the proximity to our current space, and then some new developments that are going up around downtown Lexington in addition to Rupp Arena and the convention center as well. I'll go back just a bit. I didn't include any renderings on the actual experience of this space. They are included in your packets today, but rest assured that the experience inside the museum is the most important part of this entire project. And a lot of time and effort has been put into that experience to make sure that it is a well choreographed experience that is both multidisciplinary and multi-generational. We do not provide a good experience for our children if our adults that are with those children are not also engaged in that experience. And then lots of intention went into that. I will also say that a lot of intention went into the fact that we wanted to make sure that this was a space that represented all of Kentucky. And you can see that in your renderings today. We also had the opportunity with the support of Visit Lex to do an economic impact report on this project. As you can see the numbers before you, we anticipate well over 125,000 visitors to the museum year one with a $12.2 million economic impact to year one. I will say that we believe that these numbers are put together quite conservatively and are estimating 8,100 overnight stays. We believe that this number could be significantly higher because, like we said before, this is a regional draw children's museum. And we are now opening Lexington to a completely different market for tourism that is attracting children and families that I don't know that Lexington is currently doing right now. And so the opportunity for these numbers to be quite higher, I believe, is realistic. In addition to the additional jobs that are supported, you can see the additional impact that we can make, the mission impact that our museum can make to accommodate, obviously, more visitors, more field trips, and our ability to support more educators throughout the state as well.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are running along, so
Yes,
you
sir.
can maybe...
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to share with you some information. In terms of our request, we are requesting $10 million from the state of Kentucky on a $50 million project. As you can see before you, some other similar investments in children's museums throughout the country that have been supported over the past several years. I will say that Lexington, Kentucky is unique. We are the only children's museum in the state of Kentucky. There are a few science centers in the state, obviously Louisville, Ashland, and Western Kentucky being some of those. But in terms of a children's museum, Lexington houses the only children's museum in the state, which is quite rare. Some of these states offer upwards of 5 to 10 children's museums throughout the state. Sorry. There we go. To provide a little bit more insight on the budget that we have put together, this was in support of the local architecture and design firm that we worked with in 2024. The $50 million goal for us includes capital, which is $37 million, in addition to other costs and fees that would be associated with this project, also including an endowment, professional fees, and accessibility programming as well. This includes 6% inflation for a groundbreak in 2027. In front of you is now sustainability numbers. We have worked on several versions of a pro forma with our internal leadership team to put together projected income and expenses beginning year one. This is not a new operation for us. This is something that we are currently doing today, and so we are using square feet as a driver to do this to roughly double as a baseline projected income and expenses. We started this process, like I said, 4 years ago. We can go to the next slide. We began working on this project in a whisper phase to take this to the community in January of this year. We worked on a campaign assessment last fall after we wrapped up the master plan assessment to gauge our community's interest in this project and their willingness to support this project. As you can see, year to date, we have 15% of our $50 million committed to this project through 3 sources. The City of Lexington has supported this project with $2 million investment in addition to the annual operating support that they provide. And we also have commitments from 2 local private foundations, upwards of $5 million for a total of $7 million currently from 3 sources. On the private fundraising end, we are in the active phase of that in our Whisper Phase campaign to continue getting anchor commitments and leadership gifts to this project. And on the last slide here, I'll provide just a little bit about the timeline as well. We are also projecting for a ground break in 2027 to be open in 2029. And this, I believe this is in your slide deck today as well. With that, I will wrap up to respect your time and take any questions.
Great job. Thank you. Representative McPherson?
Yes, just real quickly, I didn't really have a question, just more of a comment. I've got 4 daughters from 23 to 35 years old, and every time we went somewhere, they would look up where the museum in the state was, and they wanted to go. And, you know, sitting around talking about vacations, more and more than we went, we will have memories of, remember what we did at that, you know, the first IMAX theater I ever went to in the early 80s was in, you know, and a big bull elephant ran at me and I about jumped out of the So I really appreciate, you know, what y'all are trying to do, and I would very much support it and think it's very important for the state.
I appreciate that, Representative McPherson. I think if personally for me, if there's one thing that we want to do is we want to create memories just like that. We hope that in 50 years that families will be talking about the time that they visited the Lexington Children's Museum.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
our next presenters, I believe, is the Lexington Airport, Bluegrass Airport. Again, please state your name, who you're representing, and the green light indicates your microphone is on.
All right, while I'm getting this, my name is Eric Franco. I'm the president and CEO of Bluegrass Airport. Okay. Okay, thank you for your time today on behalf of the airport board. I have my board chair with me, Brian Wells, as well. Want to appreciate all your time and effort in trying to help us get to the next level for our airport. Just very briefly, because I think this is misunderstood, who owns and operates the airport. We are a separate local municipality. We're a child of the state, both all of us in the three largest airports, CVG, Louisville, and Lexington. And this is important to know because we operate as independent entities. We don't receive any local taxpayer dollars for our support. We operate completely on our own, like an independent private business, but we're really a child of the state. This is our service area, and we want to spend a little time just showing you this because I think everyone in this room knows that while, of course, the airport's in Lexington, we serve a pretty significant region, not only with commercial airline service, but with the private and corporate aircraft as well. We're the closest full-service airport in that region. Of course, we realize when you get to Scott County, those folks can go to Northern Kentucky, and when you get to Frankfort, those folks can go to Louisville. But we look at this as our region, and as you can tell, we have a pretty significant regional demand that uses our airport. And of course, this is our air service, our current air service. We're very blessed to serve the communities we serve directly. Of course, we get opportunities to serve more, and that's where the challenge lies for us. And of course, real very quickly is our economic impact. I want to talk about our terminal area plan. This is, I know many of you are aware of this. This is something that's been going on a number of years, working towards this. And frankly, we were a little surprised by COVID. Our whole industry didn't know how we were going to react to COVID, how our industry was going to recover from COVID. But we began a master planning process back in 2023. And of course, the first thing that you do is forecast your demand because that affects your facilities, what facilities we're going to need for the next 20 years. And the reason I want to spend a little time on this is to just kind of let you know how conservative our approach was when we came to this. This is as much an art as it is a science. So we decided, rather than just look at any forecast, to really look historically what Lexington has happened over the last 35 years, and then just carry that forward. And if you look at that, you can see that trend that our passengers have increased about 2% a year over the last 35 years. And while the FAA's forecasts were more aggressive, we decided to just really look at what we've done historically and carry that forward. And the reason that we needed to do that was then to decide what kind of facilities we need to meet the demand not only of Lexington, but of course of all central Kentucky. And in the end, I'm going to start with the end in mind. We need to go from this terminal that we have now to the terminal you see on, I guess, on your left. And it is, I guess, a little bit more, maybe not as extravagant or beautiful, but what happened with our terminal, and it's not uncommon for airports around the country, is our terminal, our current terminal, which was initially built in 1978, it's been built on 4 different times, was really built for 50 and 70 seat aircraft, which are now leaving the fleet. And that's good. That's good for Lexington. It's good for Central Kentucky. But now we regularly have 130, 150, 180 seat aircraft. And many of the gates that you see there on our current do not accommodate that large aircraft. So we needed to add more gates, but also have gates that are bigger to accommodate the growth, not only that we have today, but that we hope to have in the future. And that's one of the things that kind of, again, came out of COVID for us that surprised us. We weren't sure how this industry was going to rebound. And fortunately, I think for the Commonwealth and for Central Kentucky, it rebounded quite nicely, to the point that now we don't have any gates available for additional flights. So we can accommodate additional flights during the day, but we can't accommodate them at night if they want to park overnight. And that's what's driving us to do this terminal as fast as we can do it. So the first thing we did, just briefly, is we had to expand our parking. For those of you that may have been out there recently, you'll see a lot of construction going on. The reason I show this slide is this adds about 830 parking spaces, which, based on our forecast, gets us to about 2030. So we buy ourselves some time. Right now, we have a lot of folks, unfortunately, that are parking in our overflow lot in the grass. And again, this is all great for Central Kentucky, but it's obviously not the kind of service we want to provide. The other reason I show this, on the lower part, you see that small building outlined. That's the current FAA Air Traffic Control Tower. And you can see that's right there in the middle of what we call Boardwalk and Park Place. We need that space back because the next time we do a parking expansion, it will have to be where that current air traffic control tower is. Unfortunately, that's the only building on the airport that we don't own and control. The federal government does. So we've been working with Senator McConnell's staff and Congressman Barr's staff to do everything we can to get the federal government to move their building as quick as we can. However, we can do a lot of our terminal project with that in its current location. So I'm going to go over this briefly. We have 10 phases of this program. The challenge with us, of course, is to rebuild this entire facility, but keep it operational 24/7, 365. This is the current building and its current structure. That building that you see on the lower side is our car rental facility, and that's one of the first things that has to go. So before we can remove the car rental facility, we have to build a new car rental facility. And so those things that you see in yellow are different tenants that currently are on the terminal side of the airport that we have to relocate so that we can accommodate the growth of the terminal. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 would be then to demolish those red buildings, orange, pink, red buildings that you see, and build that new aircraft apron. And this is where we start to receive, hopefully we can draw federal funding, and why we're making the ask of the legislature that we're making now is because we think this will happen sooner rather than later, and we think this is a great opportunity to draw more revenue into the state via the federal government. For those of you who aren't aware, if we can come up with 10%, the federal government, FAA, will match it with 90%, and we can draw that money into the Commonwealth. So that's phase 2A. Phase 2B is really where we need to get to, minimum, and that gets us to 15 gates, full-size gates, to be able to accommodate the larger aircraft that we need today. So this can't happen soon enough. We're going to move as quickly as we can. In fact, we've already started our consultant selection process, but the only thing that's going to slow us down is trying to figure out the funding piece. The next phase, phase 3, we build that other facility, which is, again, a baggage claim area and maybe a checkpoint, a new checkpoint. Right now, we have no way to accommodate or expand our current checkpoint, for those of you that may have flown out of our airport. So we have 3 lanes. That's all the lanes we'll ever have because it's constrained in all 4 directions. So we need to do this. We need to at least try to get to this phase. But then our board will have options, and then the board can decide how they would like to move forward. When we have funding, is the economy still producing results that we need to pay for the debt? So we show these other phases, but at each of these points, it's a no go decision. The board will have plenty of opportunity. The word ROM, which we use in our industry, is rough order of magnitude. It's an estimated cost in today's dollars about what these different phases would cost us over time. And then you can see what the terminal would look like in its entirety with all those phases. Again, we think this is going to be an $800 million investment our board is willing to make. We will probably take on debt to do so. We think that's an appropriate tool. But we need some funding on the front end to help us get these projects going before we can get reimbursement for the federal government. So here, this is what we think a visual of that building may look like. Again, we have not hired an architect either, but it gives you some sense that we are driven more by function, and we have to be. We have very limited space on the airport. We're very constrained. We're going to make the best use of it, and we think this is the way to do it. What we've asked for from the state was $50 million over the biennium, so $25 million a year towards that $800 million, and then we will find a way to do the remaining part. Just briefly on our schedule, we feel like we are being as aggressive as we can to move as quickly as we can, because again, we feel like we're constrained today if we don't have any more growth than we've had. And fortunately, we've had growth, and we're continuing to have growth this year as well. We're still up 3 to 5% over the previous year. So we bounced right back from COVID. We continued on that growth. It's been great for Lexington, great for Central Kentucky, and great for the Commonwealth. And I will stop there and be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions this time, so Mr. Quick.
Thank you very much. I will be very brief, but try to pull all this together. Good morning. My name is Bob Quick. I'm the President and CEO of Commerce Lexington. Each of these budget requests are critical to enhancing our quality of life, driving sustained economic growth, and attracting and retaining talent in Lexington and the greater Lex area. Lexington serves as a vital cultural and economic hub, not only for the Bluegrass region, but also for Eastern and Southern Kentucky. These projects will deliver benefits far beyond the boundaries of Lexington-Fayette County, serving Kentuckians across the Commonwealth. As the leading business organization in the greater Lex region, representing over 1,800 businesses, Commerce Lexington strongly supports these budget requests for the transformative investments that will strengthen Kentucky as we move forward. I try to keep that brief to respect your time. Thank you very much.
You did well. Mr. Frankel, I trust that if there's any questions after staff can get those to you, you'll get us the information that we require. Okay, thank you very much. All right, good job keeping that brief. We'll transition to our last presentation of the meeting. Again, just a reminder, please state your name, who you're representing, and the green light indicates that your microphone is on.
Thank you. And I'll introduce you. Good morning, Chair Nunn and members of the subcommittee. My name is Sarah Wood. I am the policy director for Babbage Co-Founder, and it's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. I'll go ahead and let Ron and Tina and Jordan introduce themselves as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm Ron McBride, chair of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky Board of Directors, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to be here today. Tina?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here as well. My name is Tina Nance, and I'm the executive director of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Jordan Tierney. I'm the intern at the Aviation Museum of Kentucky.
All right, thank you. Please proceed.
Great. Yes. So great to be here today on behalf of AMK and start our morning off right, talking about Kentucky's biggest industry and our role in keeping it that way for generations to come. AMK's mission is simple. It's to inspire and educate Kentuckians and connect them to careers in aviation and aerospace, which, as you all know, is nearly a $19 billion industry here in the Commonwealth. For nearly 30 years now, the Aviation Museum has called Bluegrass Airport home, and that partnership has been absolutely vital to their success. And we do want to thank Eric Frankel and Bluegrass Airport for their continued support and collaboration as we take on this next step forward. So now, as the airport, as you saw in the previous presentation, is expanding and needs the current space that we occupy, AMK has a wonderful opportunity to move to a prime location, to expand its camps and its aviation programs, and to build workforce, drive tourism, and create a hub for aerospace and education here in Kentucky. So today we are asking you for $4 million in state investment as part of a much larger $32 million capital campaign to relocate the museum to a much more visible site and to launch the Kentucky Aerospace Education Center. I'm going to go ahead and give you some brief introductions of the incredible people to my right. First, we have Ron McBride. He has made it very clear to me that his main two identities are father and husband, but he was also a former chief of police in Ashland, Kentucky, and he is a passionate aviation advocate and chair of the board, and his leadership has really guided the museum and its mission to serve Kentucky families. Tina Nance, this is AMK's executive director. She's a U of L law graduate, and she is a former associate director of the Governor Scholars Program. So she's really dedicated her life to her career and her career to empowering young Kentuckians through education. And Jordan Timoney, here at the far right, a name many of you will recognize. His father is actually right there in the back, former Representative Killian Timoney. So Jordan is a student of Lafayette High School's aviation program at the Hill. He is a current Aviation Museum intern and a former camp attendee. So many of you know his name, and he's going to be here to tell you a bit more about his experience and give you kind of a firsthand view of what AMK does for students. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to these fine experts and pass it on to Chairman McBride to share a bit more about the museum, the education center, where we've been and where we're going.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Sarah. We're a bit crowded here. Yeah. Okay, is it going to work? All right.
That's fine. You just go.
That's good. All right. Thank you. AMK is a far more than a museum. We are a place of inspiration and education for people who are interested, who think they may be interested. We provide them a pathway to get into the aviation industry. As you're well aware, aviation in the Commonwealth of Kentucky is the #1 leading industry in this state. Bigger than horses, bigger than bourbon, it is the #1. The future of our museum was dictated by Bluegrass Airport, our landlord, and they are a marvelous landlord. And I praise Eric Frankel for making certain that we have a good accommodation. He has provided us the opportunity to move to a new site because they need our current property for the expansion they plan. And the new site will be located at Man o' War and Airport Road. You can find a better site than all of the airport. Looking at our museum, we're 30 years plus old. We started back in the 1980s as a thing called the Aviation Roundtable, which was a group of men and women who were enthusiastic about aviation, and they created the path forward that led to the museum. We moved into our new facility, or to a facility, in 1995 on the hangar drive at Bluegrass Airport. And that was accomplished by use of personal money funds from those people who were involved in the roundtable. There was no corporate dollars. There were no government dollars involved. It was all personal funds. That group led the organization to the point where we were moved to a new location in the current location. And that move was actually to accommodate the expansion of a business at the airport. It's called Thoroughbred Aircraft Maintenance. And if you have not seen that operation, go look at it. It's amazing. They occupy 2 hangars. They have a ramp full of aircraft. As a matter of fact, they have become the #1 repair point for the helicopter services of law enforcement across Kentucky and the surrounding states. It's a marvelous business, and we're glad that we could provide that space. What we do at the museum is we honor people, and we do that through the Hall of Fame, and we do that through every activity we have at the airport, whether it be the aircraft coming in to fly veterans and fly other folks. It is just a grand opportunity to learn. The museum does connect people, and we are doing a great job, we believe, in encouraging youth to go into aviation. Right now, today, we have many, many success stories we can talk about our students. One story that comes to my mind is the son of a local university professor who wanted his dad to let him go to the museum to the summer camp. He came to the summer camp, and lo and behold, he went home, and he told his dad, "I'm going to the Air Force Academy." He's 12 years old. Guess where he went? He went to the Air Force Academy. Not only did he go to the Air Force Academy, he has risen now where he is the commanding officer of all Air Force aerovac operations worldwide. That started here in Lexington. That started at our museum. That started because we inspired that young man to go forward. We have a young woman right now in Emory University. She is well ahead of her time. As a matter of fact, she had a pilot's license before she could drive a car. I'm not making that up. She had to have someone drive her to the airport so she could take her flying lessons, and she actually got her pilot's license or pilot certification before she could drive a vehicle legally. She is on her way to being a professor of aeronautics somewhere in this country, and that's because she got inspired in our facility. Our local hero, the one that we really like to talk about, is a young man from Carter County. He's a young man from Carter County who was raised by a single mother. He came to the museum, got inspired, went to EKU, graduated, went to Officers Candidate School, and as we sit here and speak today, he is flying FA-18s, the high-performance fighter of the U.S. Navy. We are doing our job, and we're doing it well, but we need some assistance. We need $4 million next biennium to help us move forward. You gave us money in the last biennium. We've used that money wisely. We've used it to bring forward planning that is solid, sound planning. I think you'll see evidence of that today. And with that, I will turn this over to Tina. Tina?
First of all, I'd like to start off by saying thank you. With your initial investment, we have launched the planning phase for construction with some of the industry's best to help guide us. With Denham Blythe as our architects and Freeman Ryan Design, who has designed 10 aviation museums in 4 countries and highlights their immersive stories through dramatic lighting and sounds. The Aviation Museum of Kentucky is going to pivot to become the Kentucky Aerospace Education Center. The new facility will connect heritage and innovation with expanded exhibition galleries, flight and drone simulators, a dedicated wing to education, and a dedicated space as event space. We see ourselves as a connection between families, veterans, and students. We're more than a museum. We create a pathway to aviation careers and serve as a hub for aviation and aerospace education. Sorry, go ahead. I would like, with the, as stated before, we'd like to thank Bluegrass Airport for their, and Chairman Wells, I think he's here still, for their support and buy-in in our future. The new location at Bluegrass Airport will be at the corner of Man of War and Airport Road. It will increase our visibility and ease of access and provide proximity to the airport as well as Keeneland. Our new exhibition hall will be designed and laid out as slated here. Visitors will see and experience Kentucky as 3 thematic frameworks. The first will be Kentucky as an economic powerhouse with $18 billion of economic export activity 23,000 jobs directly related to the industry and thousands more indirectly related, outshining both horses and bourbon. The next section will focus on Kentucky's aviation heroes, bringing local heroes' stories truly to life. And the third section will highlight Kentucky's global connections through bourbon, horses, manufacturing, logistics, and more. And it will be filled with interactive zones for hands-on learning and guide visitors through our aerospace legacy and history. Currently, the Aviation Museum of Kentucky's mission is more than just preserving Kentucky's rich legacy. We also educate and inspire. Our premier flagship program are our summer aviation camps. These provide students with an education not only in aviation basics, but also a hands-on opportunity to fly an aircraft under the guidance of a CFI. We have approximately 450 students each year, hosted statewide in Lexington, Bowling Green, Owensboro, Northern Kentucky, and Pikeville. And in fact, we've impacted over 10,000 students since our inception. We have our BD5 Learning Labs, which are hosted every Saturday with our volunteers and provide students with a hands-on opportunity with aircraft fabrication. Our we're getting ready to host our second drone pilot test prep course, which provides a 2-day class for those interested in their commercial Part 107 license. We have a grant through NASA Kentucky, and we have partnered with Fayette County Public Schools to bring in students during the school year for a 1-day hands-on activity and immersive opportunity about and introduce them to the basics of aviation as well. And then we have our simulator Sundays, which our flight simulators are open to the public, and they offer them an opportunity to feel what it's like to fly an actual aircraft. We acknowledge there's a demand out there for more programs, more space, and more students, and we know we're doing well. In fact, that's why we have Jordan Timoney here to share his story.
Thank you, Chairman Nunn and Fugit, distinguished committee members, and LRC staff for the opportunity to be here today. Before I begin, to those of you who worked with my dad, I want to publicly apologize on behalf of my family. He's a lot to handle sometimes, and when he was with you all, my family got a break from him, and for that, I have to thank you.
Well, I'll say we're all delighted to know you look like your mama, but we're worried you might talk like your daddy, so.
My name is Jordan Timoney, and I'm a senior at Lafayette High School. I've chosen the aviation pathway in Fayette County Public Schools, which allows me to spend half my days at the Hub for Innovative Learning and Leadership under the careful instruction of Mr. Nathan Hoskins, and I do believe that Chairman Nunn visited there recently. I'm a third-year aviation student, which allows me the opportunity to intern 2 to 3 days a week at the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. This is the first year that we've been allowed to participate in a new valuable learning experience in our chosen career pathway. This is not my first experience with the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. When I was in middle school, my parents signed me up for their summer camp during several consecutive summers. It was at these camps that sparked my dreams of becoming a pilot. During my time there, I was able to learn the basics of flight and aviation all together by learning under AMK volunteers with real flight experience. They taught us how to plan flights, went in depth on the history of the many aircraft in the museum, as well as the basics of the flight simulator. My most memorable experience, however, was getting the opportunity to fly a plane at the end of the camp. There's no way for me to put into words the effect that even 20 minutes of flying had on my future career choices. I'm not aware of many other camps that can fulfill a student's dreams like the one I got the opportunity to experience. This moment firmly planted the seed in my head that my future would be in the skies. I am extremely grateful that my school district has an aviation program that allows me to take the inspiration that the museum's camps gave me and launch me further into my career. I have now come full circle back to the place where I was inspired to fly. During my internship, I've gotten the opportunity to study the various aircraft in the museum, heavily assist in the museum's marketing, as well as designing my own project for the new museum. I cannot thank Mr. Hoskins, Ms. Nance, Mr. McBride, and Mr. Frankel enough for giving me this opportunity. I've begun applying to colleges and can humbly say that I've been accepted into Embry-Riddle. This past weekend, I went on a visit to Eastern Kentucky University, and it has emerged as a very good contender in the choosing of my college. In addition to those two schools, I visited Auburn, Middle Tennessee State, as well as Purdue. The only reason I have the opportunity to attend these schools is because of the seed that the Aviation Museum of Kentucky planted in me. I would just like to give thanks to God and my parents for the opportunity to pursue my goals. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jordan, for sharing your story. As you can see, we are fueling Kentucky's aviation future. In fact, 75% of students at Fayette County's aviation and drone technology program state that they got their start in our summer aviation programs. With our pivot to the Kentucky Aerospace Education Center, we know that there's a desire for more programming and reach. The new facility will have STEM-focused camps for all Kentuckians, a broad exposure to all the aerospace and aviation careers within the state, expanded statewide and national partnerships with aviation industry leaders, and provide hands-on learning with flight simulators in our summer camps and a new state-of-the-art facility. In addition to Kentucky's tourism with horses and bourbon, we have an aviation story to share as well. The economic impact of the new facility will create approximately 300 full-time construction jobs and 20 full-time staff, and increase regional tourism within the city of Lexington and the region. We are projected to quadruple our visitor impact from approximately 15,000 visitors a year to over 100,000 visitors a year. And the facility will add a year-round, family-friendly attraction that will be open to the public. In fact, other museums and other states that are similar to ours have executed this well and have served as an inspiration. The Sullenberger Aviation Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina, increased it very much and very broadly with just bringing on these museum designers. So we're very, very excited. Kentucky's aviation has Kentucky's aviation has huge momentum when it comes to our economic impact. With $18 billion and industry presence from some of the biggest leaders of UPS, Lockheed, Safran, GE, and more, the center will serve as a bridge between K-12 students and Kentucky's economy. With our capital campaign costing approximately $32 million, we are requesting an investment from the state of $4 million. We have broken down the cost here from the exterior design from Denham Blythe of the facility of approximately $21.5. That will include all the things there. Go ahead, sorry. I'm not going to the slides. And these are the budget breakdowns for our capital campaign for the interior exhibition hall and design, and broken down to help us with our fundraising efforts going forward so that donors can choose truly what inspires them and aligns with their strategic objectives. In fact, we have great community partners and buy-ins from local government, industry, and other investors, including Central Bank. We see ourselves as more than just a building. We are an investment in education, tourism, and economic growth. We build Kentucky's workforce, inspire students, truly keeping the talent in the state. And we preserve Kentucky's legacy, giving it a permanent home and a future story to tell. We see our museum as driving real long-term value and strengthening education, economic development, and increasing tourism. And that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, you've heard a lot of words spoken today, but the story was told by Jordan. He tells you why the museum is important. He is telling you what the museum is able to produce. And what we're talking about is people who are ready to go forward to seek employment in the Commonwealth of Kentucky in the largest industry, that being the aerospace industry. Let me tell you the bad news. That is a tough slot to fill. People are not interested in aviation anymore like they were years ago. It is not the spark of enthusiasm we had when you and I were young people. Well, maybe when I was young people, in all fairness. But I want to tell you that this is an example of what we are trying to accomplish, what we are accomplishing. We need your support. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for being here. We do have a 10:30 meeting, but I think we have time for two brief questions that I see here. Three. We'll do that. Senator Smith, please.
Yes, I'll keep my brief. I just want to point out that it is remarkable what you're doing. We would like to see that model also have opportunities for us in the rural parts like Hazard, for example, with the community college system. You can take, we've seen the lineman program that's been tremendously successful in Eastern Kentucky because workers can leave and work with other crew and their families stay home in our area, in our schools, so we don't have that drain. The same thing with aviation. An aviation mechanic, especially in helicopters, makes $1,000 a day plus expenses, and they can travel, and a lot of them live in Florida, and they travel all over, but their families stay back there. So we see a tremendous opportunity through our college system. The problem with it is it's hard to get people to give up that kind of money to come back and instruct, and so we're sort of in this nowhere land right now where we're trying to recruit and look for opportunities to bring that here. But JT's and other places like that, Lexington, they can't take in any more helicopters because they can't take of what they've got. Exactly. I guess, to be clear. And so that's not bad money right there. So we're excited to see it. I think it's a great opportunity for those who've lost their job in the coal mines as they've gone down, or a lot of our veterans that have come back and fought addiction and other issues that have had to rebuild their lives. This is a great chance with real good money to be able to come, but the side effect is families stay in the region. So with that, I'll stop. I appreciate what you're doing. And
Senator, I do want to comment on that. On your comments. We are working with providers such as EPIC, which is a major training program, and we are telling them they need to look at Eastern Kentucky. They need to look at the opportunity to help people who need help. And we think that we're being successful in that area. We have them, we're talking to them nearly daily. So we're trying to get there.
And if I could, just a quick follow-up. So HICO is another group that I know they're spread across the U.S., but you can go and take a 6-week class with them and come out and do your intermediary to get yourself started in maintenance and then add different levels to it. But you can get to work pretty quickly. Now, that's a different model for us where you go to, and I'm not saying college isn't great, but there's opportunities for you if you don't have that time and you've got 3 kids you've got to feed. 6 weeks is going to look a lot more attractive to you to get out and make good money, or 8, or what we've got there. So I do think the model for education is changing on these trade skills. Kentucky should be at the forefront of this, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for hosting this today, and I'll yield my time to other members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative McPherson, please.
Yes, just real quickly. So I would say I've got a nephew that went through, and he was piloting before he graduated high school, went to EKU. I've got another member of my family that is also doing the same thing. I think 58 miles of road of 1 mile here is the most important blacktop we've got in the state of Kentucky right now, part of the Aviation Caucus. I would just be remiss to say that we do have and not in competition with, but in conjunction with, we do have a museum in Bowling Green. And if you ever have the opportunity to go, it is a really, really good interactive museum. We have Mr. Honeycutt was astronaut there. We've got a lot of people there that have a lot of interactive. I went through and toured that a couple of times, and it's amazing what they're doing. And I sure appreciate what you all are here doing. I'm part of the Aviation Caucus. I would just say that I know that you're saying that maybe we don't have as much enthusiasm for the young people, but I'm saying I know quite a few young people that have been motivated by this, and I think will have good careers because of. And so I think we need to really put our money where it's actively helping. And again, these rural areas with these airports can make a huge difference because we can build airports and keep that runway kept up quicker than we can build roads to the community. I appreciate what you're doing.
If I could comment real quickly, we are actively expanding our summer camp reach actually into all areas of the Commonwealth. We have hopes for next year expansion into Ashland and a few other places to truly try to reach and touch all areas of the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Senator Wheeler, if you'll land the plane for us, please.
I'd just like to repeat a little bit about what Representative McPherson said. My son did the program in Pikeville, and I think he really enjoyed it. Seems like it sells out about every year, so I think there is a lot of enthusiasm amongst young people for this, and it is a good career path. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Okay, that's been a full agenda. Thank you, everybody, for your presentations and your time and your attention. The next meeting will be held on November 5th.